how can you get back into karate training after a long break? So I often get people saying to me that they used to train in the past and they want to get back into karate. I'm going to give you a few tips and a few things to think about in order to have the most successful transition back into training after a long break. You know, it's New Year coming up, the end of 2024, and a lot of people will have these kind of resolutions where they're going to get back into training and restart their karate journey. So hopefully this video gives you some ideas on how you can best get back into training, or otherwise if you're an instructor, if you're a sensei, a coach, and you have people coming to you with these kind of things, you can hopefully help them out with some of these ideas. So as always, I don't want to waste too much time with these videos. Let's get going. So the first thing to think about is that you are not going to be at the level you were when you stopped training. You have to be realistic with yourself and understand that. If you understand it and you come back into training, you're going to have a much more successful re-entry to training without those expectations of being as you were back then. You know, a lot of people have not trained for 10 years or 5 years or 8 months or whatever it might be. Having that period of time off is obviously going to be detrimental to your karate. However, that doesn't mean you cannot get back up to that level or even beyond the level you were at before, but it's going to take some time. So being realistic with your expectations of your own level coming back in is going to really help you out. You know, what happens is people come in expecting to be at that level and it sort of demoralizes them. They come in and they feel they can't kick as high anymore, they can't move as fast, they can't react as quickly, they don't remember techniques and stuff, you know, and then it kind of puts them off of continuing. So understand that you are not at that level you once were, and be honest with yourself about it. Come back in and build yourself back up to that point. So the second point I'd like to make is to also be realistic with what you can do. You know, it's all good being very enthusiastic, but I've had students come back to me after a long break and they say, I'm going to do every day, I'm going to train 7 days a week and I'm going to do every session there is and I'm going to get my black belt and all this kind of stuff, you know. Be realistic, because you're going from a life where you have no karate or no training in it, and you're talking about going from 0 to 100 with no transitional period. Be realistic. You know, if you're only going to be able to manage twice a week, then just be honest with yourself and do twice a week. That's fine. Don't come from a lifestyle where there is no training and try to pack in a full program of 7-day-a-week training to that life. You know, you need to be able to fit in what you can. Build a habit over time. You know, try to fit in 2 sessions a week, 1 or 2 sessions a week. Gradually build it into your life so that you can maintain that habit over time. You know, it's very difficult to have a life of no training and then pack in a full-time training schedule with your current life concurrently, at the same time. So that's just going to lead to burnout, and it's going to lead to you, thinking that you have no time for karate because you can't do 7 days a week. Gradually build it into your life. Once that becomes habit, then you can add another one and kind of build from there. But don't get too enthusiastic too soon and think you're gonna, you're gonna progress much quicker by doing that anyway. It's not really the way it works. Time cannot be, you can't rush the time. It takes time to get good, basically. Obviously, training more often is going to get you better, but you need to do that properly. You can't just go from 0 to 100. So maybe a little bit contradictory to that last point, but try to get a little bit of work at home on certain things like mobility or some of your fundamentals. If we're talking karate, just going over some basic techniques, some stances and this kind of stuff, just to kind of remind yourself. And I'm not talking about doing hour-long sessions. I'm talking about doing 5 minutes here and there, just little bits and pieces to try to, refine and remind yourself of technique, but also to work on some of that mobility that probably has been lost over time. People often also worry about how they are not fit enough anymore to do it. And they say, I need to get fit before I come back. Well, this makes no sense really, because you get fit by doing the activity that you're trying to be fit for. You can be really good in a swimming pool doing lengths, and then you get on a bike and it's a completely different fitness. So just get back in, get back to karate, start the training, take your time, gradually build up the intensity of it and the frequency of it, and your fitness will come with that. You are fit for the purpose, so you're fit for whatever you are trying to do. It's no good going on a treadmill and running every day and thinking that's going to get you fit for karate, because it's not. It's going to be a different thing. Cardiovascularly, you're going to be a little bit, fitter in terms of overall kind of cardiovascular health and fitness, But for karate specifically, there are different things we need to do as well. There's a bit of muscular strength and endurance that's required. You know, some anaerobic type work that is also required. So, you know, just get back into karate and do that. One of the next ones I get often is people come to the dojo and they say they trained 10 years ago, you know, 5 years ago, somewhere else, did something different, and they want to maintain, they want to still come back at their same grade. You know, there is respect due that they've done the work in the past. However, it's important that people come in and, again, are realistic with themselves. Is it really right to put someone in as a black belt when they haven't trained for 10 years and other people will treat them as a current black belt? You know, so when it comes to sparring, they're going to consider them to be a black belt and able to train and spar and do the things that a black belt should be able to do. You know, come in, be modest with it and humble, where, you know, step down a little bit and then come back up to that. What I would normally do is let them come in at a, you know, maybe wear a white belt for a little while, and then they can probably wear their black belt after a little while. Or if it's a different style, sometimes it's different. You know, I'll grade them accordingly, depending on where they're at. But getting too obsessed with grades and stuff is the wrong mindset. You know, if you've had a period of time off of karate, you consider yourself out of the grading system. You know, you're not in the grading system now because you've had too long off of karate. So come back into it and just treat it like, you know, you want to train because you want to train, not because you want to grade again. You know, that will come with time and something you should already know if you've done karate before. But, you know, just come back in, enjoy the process, gradually come back into it, worry about grades later. Final thing is that people often worry that they're going to be judged for coming back, you know, after a long time off. I don't care, you know, if people are training, they're training, and I'm happy for that. If someone has time off because of their life gets in the way or whatever, or they don't want to do it anymore for a little while, there's no problem. You know, I'm not going to hold that against anybody. If they want to have some time off and come back, absolutely fine. So in the right dojo, with the right instructor, right sensei or whatever, then, you know, they're not going to treat you any differently. If someone wants to learn karate and they want to train in my dojo, then by all means come along, there's no problem. Everyone that turns up to a dojo should be respected, because it's not an easy step, and I understand that and I appreciate that. It is not easy to get back into the dojo or to start in a dojo in the first place, you know, or to go to a different dojo and try something different. But, you know, just go in. As you'll know if you've trained before, karate is a friendly environment. Get in and just get going. If you've got this far in the video, drop me a comment. Let people know your tips about getting back to training. Have you had a break? If you've had a break, how did you go about getting back into it? And if you are considering coming back, you know, put your concerns in the comments and I'll address them. I'll answer your questions. But just get back into it. Go through the dojo doors and get going again. You know, there's nothing to worry about. So if you've not subscribed already, please do so. Good luck in your training in 2025, and I'll see you in the next video.